Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Metagame Show Host. That is Meta, M-E-T-A, Game Show Host, not Met, a Game Show Host, which I have not yet, but hope to soon.
Although, I gotta point out, I'm here. Hi, it's your boy Big E.
Have you hosted a game show?
I have hosted a game show. I hosted Counterintelligence.
That counts as a game show?
Okay, Counterintelligence barely counts as anything, but...
You did host the trivia contest at the fan meetup that one time.
I did do that.
You did do that. You are the closest to a game show host that I have met.
And I will take that badge.
Brian gives big game show host energy, though. I would love to be on a game show host hosted by Brian, but I guess he hasn't moved on that energy yet, so I guess it doesn't count.
We should make that happen. We should make a game show and just have him run it for us. Just as for your birthday or something. Let's have him run you a game show.
Maybe. Then I can say I've met a game show host. But anyways, I'm Ricky as always, and here with me today is the one, the only, Ian.
That's me.
There's no other Ians in the world. This is the last one.
I'm a rare endangered species, and for good reason.
Probably because your kind may be the weakest link.
It's possible that I am the weakest link, but surely, since there's still one of me, I'm the strongest of the weakest links.
Maybe. You might not be the weakest link of the weakest link.
Right.
Anyways, today we're talking about weakest link. For those of you who do not know, the weakest link, often just known as the statement, "You are the weakest link, goodbye." That might be the majority of what people know the game show as. It was a originally British game show, became American game show, run by Anne Robinson in 2001, eventually got revived in 2020 with Jane Lynch, and it's currently watchable on Hulu, and I do love the show.
I have to say, I'm a bigger fan of the old one, because I think Anne Robinson is the perfect... So, The Weakest Link was, I think, one of the original mean game shows. I think there's a few of these now, where they just belittle you for being on it. Anne Robinson is biting. She is acid, and she is very funny. But she does it in such a premierly British way that you can't be mad at her for it. Like you got there, like it's all joking, it's all fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Jane Lynch is not as mean as Anne Robinson, which is weird because Jane Lynch comes across as very mean.
I think she's still mean. She has less bitingly mean things to say, and she says more things that have been written for her, which is fine.
Right.
It's not as personalized. I mean, sometimes she gets pretty personal, especially with their occupations and stuff like that. But yes, I do believe Anne Robinson was meaner, and that could be a good thing. But essentially, the host has a team, and we're going to quote team here, of 8 contestants. And what's going to happen is they're going to take turns answering questions, general knowledge trivia questions. There's no real lean which way on the trivia questions. Sometimes they're basic math, sometimes they're history, pop culture. It's literally anything you've ever seen in Trivial Pursuit.
Except I think they do lean easy.
I think a majority of the questions are supposed to be easy.
Especially considering game shows. And I don't know, so this is one of the things that anybody who you hear people talk about their experience of being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or whatever, you cannot be prepared for. Once the camera starts rolling, you're just there. You get stupid fast.
Right.
Like people the time pressure and the just the general viewer pressure means that 80% of your knowledge is out. So I think a lot of this is designed to sort of capitalize on the fact that there is a pressure. But we'll talk about the pressures.
So occasionally over the course of about 6 rounds, we're going to be whittling down our time. We have 2 minutes per round, and we cut down 10 seconds per round. And then we're also going to cut down a player per round who does not make it. All money banked is then won by the last player left in the game.
Right.
So you don't win the money you earn by answering questions and banking money. You earn the team's total.
Which I think we missed talking about banking.
We'll discuss banking when we discuss the chains.
In terms of how it works.
Sure.
So you answer questions, and if you get it right, your money slider goes up 1. There's a chain of money on the screen.
Right.
You go to the next chain, and at any point you can just say bank before you've been asked a question.
Right. On your turn, before you've been asked a question, you can say bank, and the current money earned on the chain, and it's a little difficult. My parents have trouble following it sometimes, which is okay. It took me a little bit too. The money slider is highlighting the dollar amount of the question you're currently being asked, not the question that you've earned. So if 5,000 is highlighted, you haven't earned 5,000. You've earned 2,500.
Which is the next one down, yeah. So you have to, and so the name of the game is when do you bank? And so of course the chain isn't linear. You you get more money on the higher end of the chain. So the greed play is to keep going and not bank, so you can get those high earning options early.
Correct. So actually, it's if you can go 8 questions as a team without missing and get 8 of them right, which there are 8 players at the beginning. So if everybody gets their question right at the first go round, you will hit the top amount of that round. In round 1, it's $25,000. If that ever happens, if you do make it to the top of the chain, the money is immediately banked and the round is over. You've earned the top amount of money that you can earn for that round. So the top of the chain is always the highest amount of money you can earn, and trust me, you're probably not going to earn that much money by banking sooner. Banking is the action, of course, where you bank and you claim the money that you have on the chain.
Of course,
get one wrong,
right? I would point
fall
out
all the way down.
You probably won't get 25,000 either way. I don't remember seeing anybody actually do this and go all the way around.
So they need to brag that they have $1 million up for grabs.
Of course.
So by offering 25,000, 50,000, 75,000, 100,000, 250,000, and then $500,000 as the top prizes for the rounds, that's $1 million.
Right.
So if you have a perfect team that can answer strings of 8 questions correctly every single time, then you will have $1 million banked dollars that one person will win.
You have to wonder, they have to have done the math on what the average payout is, right?
Normally it's about close to 100,000. What I've seen, it's like 75 to like $110,000.
I'm gonna put in a vote of like dead on $83,000. That's
$83,000 is your average.
I say this with full confidence and no math.
Fair enough. The chain is really interesting because the money amounts change each round. Some less than others, but each round of our 6 rounds of trivia, we're going to have a different numbers on the chain. But essentially, during your time, and you can see the timer, and you can see the current chain, you want to be answering questions correctly and banking when it's appropriate for your team to bank. Then at the end of each round, we are going to vote independently, which means you don't do a lot of talking. Everybody just writes down a name of somebody that's playing. Of course, after all the votes are locked in, the host will chide people for bad answers and bring up people's mistakes, and then we will go around the circle and everybody will show who they have voted for. The person with the most votes will be eliminated from the show, and they go home with nothing, and they get a little confessional cam.
Goodbye, they are
the weakest link. And it doesn't matter if they are statistically the weakest link, which the game will tell us all the time who is the strongest and weakest player of the round.
We, the audience, not
the players.
That's important.
But there's their averages. They take into account your right answer percentage, and then they take into account your banking, how much money you've banked. So tiebreakers are broken by the amount of money banking. That's how they calculate who's the top and who's the bottom for their statistics. And then what happens is that person gets eliminated, and we move to the next round, and we repeat, except with a little less time and a little more money.
And a little less people.
And hopefully smarter people.
Right.
If there's ever a tie, because we start with 8, if 2 people receive the same number of votes, we will reveal who was the strongest link, and they will break the tie.
Now, so is it the strongest link gets to pick, or is it just the strongest of the 2 gets to say?
No. The strongest link in the game gets to pick who goes home.
Okay. Of
the 2 players tied. So if they have already placed a vote for somebody, they are allowed to change their vote if they'd like to break the tie. So we will also reveal the strongest link every round because we start with the strongest link. That's where turn order starts. So if you are currently the strongest link, everyone will be reminded every round, at least once, at the start of the round. It's not a cumulative statistic.
No, it's per round.
Per round. So you might be the strongest link the first 2 rounds, and then it might switch, and then somebody else is the strongest link. So
I think, based on this, we have three main categories of strategy, right? We got
to get to the end first.
Are we not to the end first?
No.
What's the end?
Eventually we get to 3 people.
Okay.
We have one more trivia round, and we eliminate one more person. Then we have 2 people. Those 2 people are going to take turns answering trivia questions in a set of 5. Whoever gets the most trivia questions right in the set of 5 wins. If you were the stronger link going into the final battle, you get to pick if you go first or second. And statistically, that doesn't matter. Psychologically, it can matter.
Now, is it just first to 5?
It's not first to 5, it's best of 5.
What happens if you tie?
We go into another round. We add another question.
Oh, so we just keep going.
We keep going until somebody gets it wrong and the other person can't answer. So it goes into like football overtime, essentially.
Okay.
So if you get 3 right and your opponent gets 3 right, we will go to question 6. You will be asked question 6. If you get it right and they don't, you win. If you get it wrong, they get it wrong, we go to question 7. And so on. Only one person wins the money. There's no way to split the money. There is nothing you can do to save yourself except be better than trivia than the other person at the end.
Which is how it ought to be.
It is.
No participation trophies. Oh?
Because that's how that works, that's going to lead into a lot of our strategy.
Right.
So essentially we've got 3 things we can control here. We can control our answers, we can control our banks, and we can control our votes.
Yep.
And so we need to look into what we can do in this formula to give us the best shot at making it to the end and then winning.
So I'm going to start out strong.
Okay.
I think we should get our questions right.
You think we should get our questions right?
That's my guess.
So I think we should get a majority of our questions right. So, of course, more questions right equals more money. So we want everybody to be getting their questions right. The people who get questions wrong early are going to get kicked out, especially if it's something that is thought of to be simple.
Yes, because the host will point out, well, that was a very easy question. My question was, what is 4 plus 5? And you answered 11.
Exactly. So all the questions are pretty much easy.
Right.
So any question wrong can look bad, especially if your answer is really out there. But even worse if you think and get it wrong. If you sit and think and get it wrong, or if you pass, don't pass. People get real upset when you pass.
Yeah, try, but don't try too long. And also don't... I'd say especially in the first 2 rounds, getting it wrong at all puts you on the block.
It's pretty bad. I would not get any of your questions wrong in the first 2 rounds. You're only going to get 2 questions each on average in the first 2 rounds, so you really can't afford to get them wrong, so we want to get those questions right. So I think, though, in the later rounds, in the mid-rounds, I'm talking about rounds 4 and 3, and even in round 5, right? We are looking to stumble a little, only a little, and we want to throw some questions.
Okay, so here's my deal with this. Don't throw a question before someone else has gotten a question wrong. Do not be the first to throw a question.
I think what the actual correct thing here is that you want to throw questions when you are on the bottom of a link.
Right. For one thing, yeah, so don't lose us money is number 1.
Right. So if somebody before you has banked, or if you have banked, you can then throw a question.
But if you're the only person to miss a question in a round, you are out.
True.
So
if you're the only person who missed a question, everybody else played perfectly.
Which at a certain point is more likely to happen than, like, once we're up to, like, 4 or 5, once we've eliminated the obvious weak links,
right?
It's possible that we'll get at least, like, that we'll get around without people missing.
Well, at that point, though, your question number that will go up. When you get down to 4 or 5 people, you're looking to get an average about 3 to 4 questions, even 5 questions per round, which means the chances of somebody missing are much higher.
It's true.
So I think that after you've banked at an appropriate time, which we'll cover in a little bit, or after somebody else has already gotten one wrong right before you, so there's no money on the line, it's a great time to throw a question.
Especially if you can do it without looking stupid.
You do not want to be the strongest link at the end of round 4.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, you don't want to be the strongest link at the start of round 5. They reveal the strongest link, and at the start of round 6, they reveal the strongest link. And you do not want to be the strongest link in 5 and 6 because
you are out.
You are out.
You're just out.
You want to bring somebody stupid into the finals.
A technique we call Roxying.
Or in Survivor, which we'll get to eventually, the GOAT. We want to lead the GOAT to the end.
Right.
So when it gets down to 3 people, what is going to happen is the other 2 people are going to pick the smartest person, the strongest link, and kick them out. That is in their best interest. We have to use economic theory here and assume everyone is acting on their best interest, because if we take other things into account, it's too much. That's the secret of economics, by the way, is that it's the worst and best science because you have to assume that people know what they're doing,
right?
When often people do not know what they are doing. But it should be obvious at the start of round 6, whoever the host goes, well, you were the strongest link, so you'll be going first, and then they get all their questions right in that round too. I can't beat them in a trivia challenge.
Right.
I need them gone.
Now, here's a question. Let's say you're the strongest link at the beginning of round 6, and you miss one question, like a good man ought. Are you safe, or are they going to remember that you were the strongest link and vote you off anyway?
I think if you are outed as the strongest link in round 6 and you miss every question, you will still get voted out.
I think I too would vote off the strongest link at the beginning of round 6, no matter what.
I think that almost always the strongest link at the beginning of round 6 is going home. And even worse, even more damning if they were also the strongest link at round 5.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to shove somebody else into the round 5, the round 6 strongest link point. You want to pull punches and throw answers in round 5 and 6. At least one. And if everybody else gets one wrong, then you need to get another one wrong, maybe, just to make sure that you're not the top link.
Right. And I do think this is where having a mean host actually plays in to the strategy, because again, it's so important to not throw a question that makes you look stupid.
Right.
Because you will get eviscerated. And then that's in people's minds. Because I think, especially, so the beginning rounds, there's 8 people. You're only keeping track of maybe the 1 or 2 people who are actually screwing up. But like when you get down to like 5 people, you're easily led by the host into thinking this person needs to go.
So often in this show, a type of question that comes up is you are given 2 words and then told which should you blank with, right? Mm-hmm. So it'll be like the head or the poop deck, where should you go to the bathroom on a ship? These questions are very easy.
Yes.
They're very easy, but they're easy to get you tripped up mentally. Also, you will look extremely stupid getting them wrong. Never get these questions wrong. Also, a little bit of trivia. In these questions, because they're so common, you can say the latter or the first. You do not actually have to repeat the answers.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Which is important, because they're normally going to be 2 words that are very similar.
The answer, by the way, is off the side of the boat.
Also correct. Is the head, right? People call that the bathroom. So, but there's lots of questions they have like that. Pikachu or Gucci Mane, which should you wear around your neck? Well, actually both. Or which one do you listen to? Anyways, point is, don't miss those questions ever. They will make you look stupider than anything else.
Also, math questions are very easy to...
Yes, math questions and coin questions. Coin questions come up often. Like, if you have 2 dimes, a nickel, and 2 quarters, how much money do you have?
Right, and this falls into the makes you think and stop and think. And so I think, the trick is, of course, to be good at trivia, step 1.
Right.
And B, trust yourself.
Yes, trust yourself.
It's worse to... I would almost say that it's worse to think a long time and get it right than it is to be fast and get it wrong.
Sometimes, you got to think, we're on 2 minutes here and there's 8 people who want to get to Like, you should not be spending more than 10 seconds on your question, and that's, like, going long.
10 seconds is incredibly long. 3 seconds is, like, ...
So, like, if you've waited 5 seconds, you need to say something and not pass. Do not say pass. I've watched so many people get voted off this show and was like, why did you vote for that person? It's just like...
Yo, bro, didn't even try.
He didn't try. He said pass. Mm-hmm. And we try here. I'm struggling for that money. I want that money, So the trivia essentially boils down to answer as many right as you can, go as perfect as you can in the first 3 rounds for sure. Probably even in the 4th round, pull back. That's when you want to start pulling back. Make good throws. After you've banked is a great time to throw a question because you won't lose the group any money. You know what's going to look real bad? That guy that we got 3 right in a row and then he broke the chain. That's going to look bad. But we banked and then we got it wrong, so we didn't lose any money. So let's keep going. Everybody lets that guy slide by.
Yeah. So, which leads to...
Banking
strats. All right, here's my personal banking strat.
Sure.
In the beginning.
Sure.
If you get to $5,000, you should have banked already. But bank. As you go on, I think it is unreasonable to presume that more than 4 people will get a question right in a row.
Really? I think that the more refined your group gets, the higher you could possibly chain. But I decided to base my banking strategy around math.
Gross.
I know. Also, we're going to hear that hit the table, but it's okay.
Well, that was just me. That was my fist. That was my full-throated fist as I said gross and slammed.
So actually in round 1, if we look at the money amounts for the chain, we go from 1,000 to 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000. 5,000 to 1,750.
750.
Sorry, 750. 7,500. 7,500. Anyways, numbers, math. To 10 grand to 25 grand. I believe that round 1 is the only round where you should not bank ever and only shoot for the top prize. Because the percentage gain. We gain $1,000 each step up until we hit 5,000. Then we jump 2,500, so we're going to jump 50% of our value from to $7,500. From there, we're going to jump 25% of our value at $2,500 to $10,000, which then we more than double into $25,000. So my initial strategy is whenever the returns begin to diminish is when you need to bank.
That makes sense, but there is a wrench in this in the first round, which is you don't know how stupid your teammates are.
So if you wanted to bank in the first round, I would only bank once we've obtained $7,500 as a group.
That would mean that we need to rely on
6 people,
3/4 of our team getting their question right.
It's true,
and if we can get bank on 3/4, I think it's that last quarter's the wild card. I don't know. Like to me, 5,000 is where I bank every time because at that point we've more than half.
Because we have so little to lose in round 1. The money amounts just aren't worth banking, at least until we get to 7,500.
Okay, all right, I can accept that.
Because if you look right next door to round 2, we go 1,000 to 2,500. So that's a big jump. That's a 150% jump. Then we go up from 2,500 to 5,000. 100%. So 100% jump. 5,000 to 7,500. 50% jump. And then we're looking at a 33% jump from 7,500 to 10,000.
At which point, then we jump back up to a 50%.
Right.
And then after that, it starts popping off again. But no, at that point, I would definitely... I think 5,000 is probably the hit.
I think that 5,000 or 7,500 are the correct chances in round 2. That being said, I don't think it's worth going for the $10,000 question ever because the 33% equity gain is not worth the risk at that point. So I think 7,500 is as high as you should be getting in round 2, which is only 4 questions right.
Right. And that's doable. 4 questions is very doable. 6 questions is like right where I start losing my faith.
Right, but in round 1, because you're only gaining 1,000 each time, we're already diminishing. Like, once we get past question 2, we're already in diminishing returns. So it's just not worth it to bank until we really start diminishing. The 7.5 to 10,000 jump is a really rough jump, and they like to do it a lot. So when we get to round 3, we actually have the same numbers, with the difference is once we make it to 10,000, instead of jumping from 10,000 to 15,000, we jump 10,000 to 25,000, 25 to 50, 50 to 75,000 being the top prize. Once again, in round 3, even though the top end looks better here, the $7.5 to $10,000 33% equity gain is just so diminished compared to our levels below.
Mm-hmm. Well, so here's what so another thing I think this is interesting. This is based off. I don't have the math on this. I'm sure somebody has done the math on this.
Sure.
Like, to truly, if we were doing this bestest, we need to know average money gained. So like that 75,000 at the top looks good, but based on my personal estimate of about 80,000 as the final round, it means that nobody ever gets it.
Right.
And so at a certain point, it's just candy. It's just visual flair.
Sure.
Like, we have to presume that, like, based on average play patterns, there's a point that most people just do not get to.
Sure, for sure. And, like, you also have to take into account, and this is veritable, but you have to take into account pot size already.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, the 75 and the 50,000 looks pretty good, but if your pot is already sitting at, like, roughly 20,000, the 7,500 is still, like, that's basically a 33% gain on your pot. From
20,000, adding 75, that is a more than 300% gain.
No, 7,500.
Oh, I thought it was 75,000. Okay,
no,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, no.
Of course, the 75,000 is nice, but like you're still getting a pretty good gain on the pot, which is what's important here. Is gaining the actual pot. We're not gonna get $1 million game. It's not gonna happen. There are 7 other people in this game that did not listen to this podcast, unfortunately.
Right.
Share this podcast with your friends. Make people listen to this.
Prepare for this eventuality. But also, the game is not called all of the equally strong links.
Right. It is called weakest link. If you were actually winning the top prize every time, there would be no way to determine who is the weakest link, and you would get sent home based on like an incorrect skin like follicle.
Yeah, or like whose profession sounds the stupidest.
Right. Or whose profession sounds like they already have enough money.
Yeah. Or racism.
Sure. So then round 4 comes, and man, same song and dance. We start with 2,500, we go to 5,000, then we go once again to our good friend 7,500. It's then to 10,000, then to 25,000, and then so on. Once again here, the 7.5 to 10,000 is just so miserable.
It's a rough game, but it's also at this point only the third question.
We should just be banking at 7.5, and anything above 7.5, if it comes to our turn, we are banking.
I think that's fair, because again, at this point, you're also at what? So we've lost 3 people at this point, so we're down to 5 people.
Right.
And so 5 people, you're probably getting at least 3 questions.
Right.
And I think...
also, because there's only 5 people, the highest it can ever be when it gets around to you is the $25,000, and you should just bank that.
Yeah.
Because if you crash the $50,000...
you are done for.
You're done for.
Yeah.
So we are planning to get most of our questions right, but also in round 4 is a world where we want to start crashing questions.
It is true, but so I think this is a good point. If everybody before you has been dumb, like let's say somebody doesn't bank at 75 and answers for the 10, you bank the 10.
Now, if somehow things wheel out to at any point where you are the last question, if we have chained up to the top and you were the last question, never bank.
No, run.
You have to go for it. Nobody will blame you if you miss it. You have to go for it.
I disagree. I think they will blame you for it, but they're going to blame you for banking it too.
Sure.
You are in the we have a trolley problem going.
Yes. I don't think it'll ever happen. It never happens. The only time I've ever seen people win the top prize is literally on the first round. The questions are easier and everybody only has to answer one.
Right.
Sometimes the random assortment of math, pop, music, like business, law, and brand names just aligns to the 8 individuals that are in this room, and everybody gets a question they liked. That Rugrats guy gets a question about Rugrats. All is well with the world, and you win the first round.
This is seen famously in the documentary Sister Sister, where they're on a game show and they know nothing. Is it Tia or Tamara who's the smart one? I forget.
I can't. Don't put that on me.
Anyway, one of them's the smart one, but they're not doing well. And of course, the last round is all about Coolio, and bam, they know all about Coolio.
Would you not know everything about Coolio?
Sister Sister has taught me that I must know everything about Coolio.
In round 5, things get especially spicy, which is unfortunate because we're definitely looking to bomb one question. However, the money amounts go 2,500 to 5,000 to 10,000.
We drop the little brother
to 25,000 to 50,000 to 75,000. We are not banking until 50,000. We are more than doubling every single jump until 50 to 75,000. So therefore, we ain't hitting bank.
But the downside here is, at this point, we've lost 4 people. We're only at 4 people. To get to 50,000, we have to have at least the first guy get 2 questions right.
Right.
And that's so. There's something about repeated questions. So this may be a gambler's fallacy thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I were there, if I got my first question right, the pressure on me would be intense enough that I would be concerned about getting my second question right.
Do not think like this.
It's too late. It's already happened, Ricky.
Beyond gambler's fallacy. But the math says that the greatest gain is, of course, 10,000 to 25,000. But then the 25,000 to 50,000 gain is 100% gain. So you should go for it. So you should bank at 50,000. Like, never go higher than that because it diminishes.
Although, we are fine banking at 50% gains before.
We were fine banking at 50% gains with lower numbers.
And now that our 50% gain is... So there's the other issue.
So the 5,000 to 7,500, though, is a 50% gain. But the thing was, like, the 75 is only a 33% gain. That's what we've not been banking. We've not been pushing for 33% gains.
So 75 to 100,000 is a 33% gain. But 50 to 75 is a 50% gain.
Right. You're correct.
But at that point, of course, when you're down to... That would require multiple people to get 2 questions right.
Right.
I guess it also depends, like, you should know if people on your team are a dumbass or not.
I still think it's mathematically safest to bank at 50,000.
I think there's another thing. So we're talking about percent gains, and that's very good, and that's very math.
Right.
But also, these are real world dollars, and so $50,000 is enough money.
Okay. This is the Ian classic on the show. Ian is like, look, deal or no deal, I'm out on like the 7 ham sandwiches and $20,000, and I get that. That's very real, and that's.
I do want to point out.
I am also like this, but also
I was not on the Deal or No Deal podcast, but I would have said that. Yes.
Yes.
No, I think at a certain point, you have to like hedge your bets and say, if I win this, am I satisfied with my game show experience?
Yes.
50,000 is enough.
Also, math.
I appreciate your math.
However,
all game shows are math versus emotion, and math is correct.
Correct. You've. Would you like the business degree now or later?
Oh, man.
So, round 6, we don't have to worry about being the smart guy. Because the smart guy gets outed at the beginning of round 6.
Right.
So we're pretty safe to answer these correct.
Yeah.
That being said, 2,500 to 5,000 to 10,000 to 25,000 to 50,000 to 100,000 to 250,000 to $500,000. It's not going to happen, and your other cowardly teammate is going to bank before you.
It's also...
But you don't want to bank in this round.
They're all good numbers.
You do not want to bank in this round.
They're all at least 100% gains.
Exactly. The last round is so stacked. It has got the $500,000 at the top of it. You should have whittled down to roughly the 3 smartest-ish people on your team here. And so, don't bank. Believe in the team. Believe in the us that believes in you.
Believe in the you that believes in the business degree. Let's.
However, with one exception.
Yeah.
If you get hit with the last question, you have to bank. Because if you get the $500,000 question right, you're gonna get voted off for being too smart.
You think so?
I'm pretty sure.
I've never seen it happen, so I can't tell.
I also have never seen anybody win the last round.
Do the questions increase with difficulty as it ranks up?
Technically, no.
Because it's really just a chain, right?
Right.
I feel like winning, but I do think you may be seen as the strongest link because banking plays into strongest link strats.
Right.
I know. Are we on to voting strats yet, or is this?
It is time to get on to voting strats, but to just summarize our banking strats here, you want to be banking anytime the next jump is not
33%.
If it is 33% or less, then we want to be banking. If it's still 50%ish, of course, if it's 100%, never bank. If it's 50%, it depends on the round. Or if we intend to throw some questions. And in the first round, don't bank because the money levels are so low. Just play.
Okay. So I will start off voting strategies with my declaration that you can tell me I'm wrong about.
Sure.
I don't think personal votes matter in this game. Which is to say, some games you have to worry about who you vote for because of grudges. I don't think grudge votes come into play in this game because if you're voting for, you should only be voting for somebody who missed a question, at least in the first rounds, and that means they know they deserved it. You shouldn't be voting for if you vote for somebody totally off the wall. I don't think they can hold it personally because it doesn't. I think voting's pretty clear.
I think you need to be voting for the statistically lowest person every time, simply because you want to have the most right vote outs.
Yep.
Being in any voting show, and while Ian has said that yes, grudges shouldn't happen because the math should beat the emotion, but it just doesn't.
Well,
and it's real sketch, especially in the middle game here. But if you are on the wrong side of a vote, meaning you voted for somebody who did not leave, that person has to strategically worry about you.
I will see. This is where I think, unless they were one of the options for weakest link.
The thing is that ultimately it gets really close because if two people got one question right and two questions wrong,
and neither of them banked,
who was the worst? And it comes down to who spent more time. Now, because it's so quick and fast-paced and you have to think about your own questions, it's hard to really see how much time got wasted. So therefore, even if we're paying ultimate attention, our teammates won't be. And so any little thing that just they both got similar scores, but they voted for me in the past, so I'm going to get them out now.
I think, though, this comes back down to my alternative here is this is the other half of the show, which is who got the stupider question wrong.
This is true.
I think what's the most important is always vote for the statistically weakest link, and if it's close and you missed it, vote for somebody for whom you have justification. External justification.
I also think that the biggest trap is when the host asks you why you voted. You have to answer this because, it's television. They don't let you on if you're not going to answer their questions. They don't want people to just sit and go
right.
The 2 + 2 is 4. They don't want that person. So they want you to talk and have an attitude and stuff like that. You don't have to give them that much attitude. You just have to be like, well, Jane,
you didn't know what a Lego was.
This person doesn't know what a Lego is, and I've been stepping on Legos my whole life. Ha 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 ha. Everybody laughs, right?
I do think there is value in being prominent. I think that prominence, I bet you...
that's how you got on the show.
Well, sure.
Which is the Allison point.
The Allison special, yeah.
The Allison point of always trying to bring up, well, how did you get on the show in the first place? Which is beyond meta, and I always award her for that.
But I think at a certain point, I bet you can correlate strongest links with people who are funniest. I think people are more afraid of you if you have a good answer. I think there's some intimidation play, some mind games.
We don't want to be scary because we want to be the cute and cuddly goat that gets brought to the last
That's true.
round.
But if you're gunning for second place, which of course awards you nothing.
We're gunning for second place until...
No. I mean second. Voted out at the last.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes.
In the Wikipedia summary of our episode, second place.
Sure.
Be loud, be brash, be colorful.
Sure. I think that ultimately guessing correctly on where everybody else is going with their votes is really important. If you've seen if you've seen a grudge start, maybe, especially when somebody's on the lower end of the link scale, vote for them. Like, you want to be wrong as few times as possible, because being wrong on your vote only creates bad feelings. And even though they should be looking past that and only voting for weakest links, right? The thing is, everybody wants to win, and if you are the weakest link, you're not just going to go, oh, I'll vote for myself, that's my duty.
Now here's a question. Let's say you're one of the two weakest links.
Right.
Who do you vote for?
The other weakest link.
Okay. All right.
Always.
But what if? But I guess if you lose the vote, then it's fine. You're already out.
Another very stupid thing that I've seen a lot. Don't let yourself end up alone on one side of the room. It's the dumbest thing ever. But the way the contestants are standing is that there are 8 trays, like 8 little podiums in a semicircle around the host.
Right.
And so everybody can see everybody. If you see the eliminations coming and you see that you've only got one person standing next to you left, you need to not vote for that person. Anytime it gets down to 3 people on one end of the crescent and one person on the far end of the crescent, that person goes home.
They pick up a spare.
Regardless of like how well they do, because the other 3 people are close to each other. And even though there's no deliberation, there's no discussion on your votes, it's a silent little write down thing, it's just a psychological thing of like, well, this is us, and that person's way over there. So don't let a physical let's go meta here.
Mm-hmm. Meta. Be seated in the middle.
Well, we can't control that, but what you want to do is when you
kick somebody.
Like, you have left and right person, right?
Yeah.
Unless they are the absolute weakest link, no questions asked, you probably shouldn't be voting for them, because you want to keep them next to you.
Strength in small number, okay.
So, at least if one of them goes, that's fine, but the next person next to you, don't let them leave. And if you are in the middle, you're in a very good position.
I think the best play is to explain this to the people in the game.
Do not explain this to the people in the game.
In fact, I think here's what we should do. We should play
in the green room.
In the green room,
bring up this podcast.
Play this podcast and make sure that everybody is fully aware of their rights.
So yes, voting strategy comes to a lot of like sort of odd psychology and a lot of things that we can't control, and weird things like the sides. Which is weird, but I see it happen all the time in the show. Have you not seen any episodes where that happens?
So I've seen it happen, but they were also the weakest link. And so maybe being alone makes you stupider.
There's been times where like it's like, why'd you vote for them? And it's just like, well, they're all the way over there.
Yeah.
And it's just like, can you argue with that logic? Yes, but not right now. I don't have the time or the whiteboard right now to explain why that's dumb.
We take the 4th integral.
So I do think that you want to be incorrect on your vote as little as possible, but also want to defend person to the left or right of you when you are down to one person to your left or right.
I do think that I think it's less important about which I think being right about your vote is good. I think having justification and your justification not being petty will keep people off of choosing you as a grudge pick, which is a similar strategy, I think, when it comes down to it.
Right. So I think that is what you really want when you're voting, is just pick the weakest link that isn't the last ally you have next to you. Not that they're your allies, they're not your allies. There's only one winner. But just because the weird psychological positioning thing, it's like encroachment in Magic.
Oh, yeah?
You know about encroachment?
No, is this like when you're sitting next to a guy who's got his board spread all over it? Or your board spreading over to their side?
Yes, where you start pushing your cards further and further slowly over your opponent's playmat and stuff like that. It applies pressure.
Yeah, I think this is called being a dick.
It is... But it's also funny.
Also, play your lands in front.
Don't play your lands in front. That's how you get voted out.
This is how you tilt Ricky.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's illegal now, right?
It is illegal now.
Wow.
Anyways, slight tangent. Back to the weakest link. If we get most of our questions right until rounds 4 and 5, bank whenever mathematically we should bank, and vote for the statistically weakest link without stranding ourselves as a lone island man with no one to comfort us, we should make it to the final 2.
Right.
There's no further advice for the final 2.
There is. Get it right.
Your trivia just has to be better than the other ones, and you need a little luck. It feels very Angels in the Outfield.
I don't know. You could just shiv the other guy.
Championships have to be won alone. They do offer you if you want to go first or second. Technically, going first is better because it applies more pressure to the person behind you.
Right.
If you get it right.
If you get it wrong, well, then you're already
Then
screwed.
you're playing from behind.
Right.
Which is worse. So it technically does not matter, but if we are expecting to be good, you should choose to go first because then you get to answer correctly, and now it's like you have to answer correctly to stay in this to stay with on pace.
Yep. And also, I think the main strategy here is just don't go on a trivia show if you don't know trivia.
Right. I mean,
which is actually the only thing. Funnily enough, the only show that this does not apply to is Jeopardy.
What?
Jeopardy is designed. We have to do a whole Jeopardy episode.
There's a Jeopardy episode in the future for sure.
Jeopardy has a whole different thing about their trivia.
There's no studying that you could possibly do for the trivia on this show.
Yeah, you just gotta know random crap.
You really just have to know random crap, and no one's going to expect you to get every single question right. This is not Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Although, I do think the big pressure here is time and TV pressure. That's what's going to make you miss that 4+5 question.
Don't do that. We've already talked about not cracking under pressure of game shows. We're sort of assuming, we've already lived a hardened game show life through Carmen Sandiego and Legends of the Hidden Temple. We're ready. We're good. We don't crack under pressure as adults.
But I think you should practice. I think you should have your friends throw water balloons at you while asking math questions.
Okay. The Cobra Kai method, I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is some sort of advice, I guess. Anything else? Do you think that you could win Weakest Link?
No, because I'm incapable of getting the questions wrong.
That's honest right there.
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to throw them?
I wouldn't be able to throw them. No, I would answer them.
If you were get kicked off at the end of round 6.
That'd be me. I would be the strongest link, and I would be, you fools! Now the chains will break because you have eliminated me, the strongest link. And that's how the Titanic crashes. I think there were chains involved in that. I'm not sure. This metaphor got away from me.
Fair enough. I think I could do well on Weakest Link.
There's no doing well. There's only winning or being scuttled out.
I think I could win Weakest Link.
Okay, alright. Now we have it on camera.
I think I could win Weakest Link. I could tell you for 100% certainty that I could not win Carmen Sandiego. Honestly, you could put me on Carmen Sandiego now, and I would lose to all the kids in Carmen Sandiego.
I wasn't on the Carmen Sandiego episode, but isn't it just knowing geography?
Super geography.
Sure, but you could study that.
Also, the last round is absolutely impossible.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But anyways, the point is, I think this show is very fun. It's exciting because we have vote off in a normal trivia show, which adds a lot of thought and decisions and things we can't control, which is fun and frustrating for us who want to overanalyze things and come up with a perfect strategy, as we have slightly divergent strategies on voting and things like that. Where we could use the math, we use the math, and at the end of the day, I don't know, make sure you brush your teeth and don't smell bad.
Because that gets you voted off?
Because that gets you voted off.
Yep.
So really, I think that ultimately it's a fun show and there's lots of paths and correct ways to do things, but you got to be likable to get on the show, likable to stay on the show, not too likable.
Yeah, or else you end up getting
targeted. So
yep. You want to be the second most popular guy in class.
Exactly. Underachievers would do really well at this show. You just got to get that C.
You just got to get that C. That sounds about right.
You want to be...
Until the final.
Don't tell people you have some weird job.
I'm an egg toothbrush specialist. I
Just
toothbrush off all the eggs.
Be an accountant. Don't be a semi-professional gambler.
Don't be a magician.
Professional flower delivery.
In general, I would say...
Not saying don't do these jobs. If these are your jobs, that's amazing. Don't put it on the paper.
I would also say, just in general, never put down that you are a magician.
And if you work in any sort of systems analysis or consultation, do not write systems analyst or consultant.
I think those are slam dunk jobs. You can't make fun of them.
I think that consultant gets made fun of a lot. Maybe I'm just in business circles.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know, but like this is like the logistics coordinator. Oh, put that down for sure. Everybody's like, "What logistics do you coordinate?" And you go, "All of them." Boom.
I'm pretty sure though, if you're a trash man, just write that down anywhere, because that's hot.
Sanitation specialist.
Hell yeah. This one goes out to all the sanitation specialists out there.
We think about you. We do.
All right. Anything else you want to add on to Weakest Link here?
I'm the strongest link.
Well, I'd love to end this show by just saying goodbye. But also, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. In the comments, go ahead and tell us what shows you want next. Be ready in February. We're doing a great, big, huge, stupid Survivor episode. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we've got apparently a Jeopardy episode coming down the pipe soon. And I've got a lot of plans for this show. So keep listening, share with your friends, download the podcast wherever podcasts are sold. And subscribe to Door Monster and Door Monster Podcasts.
You are the strongest audience. Goodbye.
Goodbye.